Welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Tara Nolan, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Tony Shore. And we are going to be talking today about how baseball relates to finance. And if you guys have been listening to the show, you know I'm in the throes of writing my book, Wealth as a Team Sport. And so this is so much fun to get to combine it. And I just keep seeing, like, it doesn't matter what your sport is, whether you like football, soccer, baseball, pick your sport. It just applies with the team concept that we need to have with finance. So during today's show, if you have a question or you want to ask something that we're not getting to, please feel free to give Chris is my husband and my partner. This is Tony. Give Chris and I a call at 719-210-4242. And definitely visit us online at www.taraenolan.com. While you're there, you can check out and see what we look like and see what we do. But you can also subscribe to this podcast, and it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because we have a lot of educational topics. And the big reason I do this show is success in retirement starts with education. And we talk about things from Social Security to IRAs to 401ks to annuities to insurance. You know, there's so many things that go into this. You know, and the analogy is wealth is a team sport. And all those things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance, those are all the equipment that you use. So you have to figure out what sport are you trying to play? And then we figure out what equipment that you're going to use. And so we're going to just keep having fun with that today. Today, we're going to do it through baseball. But Tony, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Yeah, it's our second week of doing a baseball analogy. Last week, we talked about this a little bit, and now we're going to switch it up a little bit, but still kind of have a baseball analogy. And, you know, last week, we learned that a lot of players have some funny nicknames, like Shoeless Joe, and all these famous baseball players had funny nicknames. But, you know, a lot of people, you know, you're this financial guru, and so you've got a nickname as far as finances.
Financial Panther, eh?
Homer Simpson calls you a financial panther. I love that. But no, I've been great. I'm excited about the show today. We're going to have some fun with it. And I just think it's a great topic because people are concerned for retirement, especially as they get older. But I know today you're going to take a different slant on it. But before we get into that, I want to ask you how you and Chris have been doing. I know I get to be on the show with you and have fun goofing off, but Chris is in the background somewhere. He's off somewhere over there, and he's busy holding the fort down while we're doing these shows. How have you guys been doing?
Tony, we're having a great time, and you're absolutely right. Chris is working on the to-do list. So while I get to have fun with you and be out there and talking to people and educating people, Chris is taking care of putting those financial plans together and getting that done. Tony, we are coming up on our almost a full year of our healthy eating challenge.
Oh, wow.
I think at this point we've both lost about 25 pounds, but the important thing is you're starting to feel better. And
that's good. You want to feel better.
Chris has arthritis, and he's noticed a big difference in the inflammation because, you know, just kind of eating a little cleaner and having more vegetables. And
wow.
And we're just going to stick with it. And it just reminds me of finance so much because we've had this good habit going. And now the thing is we just want to make this how we live.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do with finance, right? Is we're trying to teach people good habits, but then ideally once it becomes just part of how you live, that's when it starts to get there. So,
well, you're my financial coach, but maybe you should also be my personal trainer. I could use one. So,
well, when I put it out there to everybody, it kind of holds me accountable, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's what yeah, that's what I need. My kids are doing their part to keep me accountable. They remind me, Dad, don't eat that, or Dad, you need to eat a vegetable, but I always, you know what I love to ask you, Tara, every show.
So how's it going down there in financial services?
How's it going down there in financial?
What do you want? Financial advice?
So we're going to have fun with the show today, as you can tell. And, you know, again, spring is here. So it's the perfect time once again to talk about baseball. I love it. And we're also going to talk about retirement a bit. So, last week we looked at some of the steps people may want to take in their last year of work before you retire. You gave us a lot of great tips on that, Tara. And then we also looked at some of the best final years of baseball players. I threw out a few facts there. But what do you have for us today?
Well, so now today we're going to take the baseball analogy, but instead of talking about the veterans at the end of their career, we're going to be talking about the rookies and looking at
rookies.
So what do you start doing now that you've started your new job and you're launching your career? How do you start getting ready for retirement today? And it's a kind of will blow your mind a little bit, right? Because you're new at the job, you've talked to HR, you're just trying to figure out where the coffee machine is. With COVID going on, you're trying to figure out, are you going to be having a desk or how the work situation is? But there's things that you can do right now to start setting yourself up for success right at the beginning of your career. So just because you're a rookie, it's not too soon to start thinking about, how do I set myself up for success right now?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to get into today.
That's a good one. And, a lot of people out there, many of our listeners are probably well into their careers, but hopefully they'll share what they hear and what you have to tell us today, Tara, with the young workers in their life, their kids or their grandkids, and they can direct the younger people they know to the website or to the show so they can watch it, and they can listen to this episode themselves, watch it on your YouTube channel. So I think this is great. This show's it's getting me fired up actually to head out to the baseball game. I want to catch one this year. Maybe with COVID settling down, we can finally see a game with social distance, limited number of fans, but still, I know that some teams are opening that up a little bit. What do you have first for us today?
Well, this first one, and I hope that the older workers out there listening are just telling their younger coworkers, make sure you take advantage of your 401k if your company offers it. And it's kind of one of those things that can kind of slip through the cracks, especially when you're young and you're new, and you may or may not have paid attention, but you definitely want to sign up for your 401k. And there's two questions I want you to ask. So the first question I want you to ask is, what is the Roth 401k option? So make sure you find out about that.
Yep.
And then the second question is, how much matching is there? And how do I sign up to take advantage of it? And you just this is one of those fire and forget things. You just want to set up that you're doing the maximum matching, have it come right out of your paycheck so you won't miss the money. And your future self will thank you for just putting that on autopilot, that you're just setting yourself up to take care of that matching in your 401k. And that thing will just start working for you behind the scenes like your money should, right? You're working hard for your money.
Yeah.
Your money should be working hard for you too.
There you go. Well, that's great advice. And I know we've talked about that on past shows, but it's so important. And that's why I know, Tara, you keep bringing it up for our listeners, especially the younger listeners, when they first get into that first full-time job, probably out of school. You absolutely, or even before while you're in school, if you have a job, if they offer a 401k and you qualify, make sure you don't just take the default or say, yeah, I'll put 1% or 2% or 3% in there. Nope. You have to ask, how much do I have to put in to get the maximum amount of employee match? And if you have to put in 6%, maybe that's tough at first, but if you start right away, it's money you won't miss. And you want to get that match because that's huge, because not only do they put that money in, but then that money compounds. And so you're making interest off the money that they put in that you didn't have to put in. It's free money, basically. So I have a little baseball fact about a rookie in baseball, his first season, and it is maybe one of the greatest, if not the greatest, baseball player in history as far as a person, the legendary Jackie Robinson. In 1947, he not only his first year broke baseball's color barrier, he also hit 297, which is great, and stole 29 bases. And I love watching those old clips of Jackie Robinson running the bases. I mean, what a wonderful athlete, and more so a remarkable human being who did so much for the game and for minorities. I can't say enough about Jackie Robinson. And if you haven't watched that number, I forget the movie called 42, or there's a movie about him that is amazing that you should watch. It's really good. So what do you have next for us on the financial side, Tara?
Well, just launching right off of that. So Jackie Robinson did amazing things as a rookie. So he didn't wait to have everybody tell him it was okay. And it reminds me, Tony, of this quote that I heard from my first financial coach. And she said, "How are you keeping yourself small to validate other people's realities?" And so I would just have you think about that with money, because it's very easy to get into this. Well, you're young and you've got time and you don't need to worry about that right now. And you'll catch up later. You'll figure things out later. That's what you hear a lot. But when you're young, it's not too soon to get started. You can get started right away taking care of yourself. And so this next thing that you can start to do is just kind of keep an eye on your spending, because it is a big shift to go from, college or living a situation where you have roommates to all of a sudden you're starting to get a paycheck for the first time.
Yeah.
And it becomes very easy to, especially if you're going out with friends, to spend money in ways that you're not thinking about it, not intentionally. So the thing is there's a lot of great apps out there that you can track your spending and being on top of it. And I'm not saying, I'm not talking about the latte factor where you have to stop drinking coffee. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is just being very conscious. And if you're going to spend money, that's okay. You can have some fun and treat yourself, but just be aware of what you're spending so that you're not just spending money that you didn't even know, or you bought something and you didn't even really need it. And had you been thinking about it, you just wouldn't have done it. So, and this is like, it's a whole new part of your life when you're that rookie. You're like, oh, you don't even know what's out there, and your life is going to shift. So you're going to spend more money, and just you're creating, it's a new part of your life. So just be intentional about it. That's what you want to be doing.
Yeah, that's really good, Tara. And I think having an app, and there are so many great apps out there. I mean, there's YNAB, which is You Need a Budget. There's Mint. There's some really good apps that you can have on your phone or your mobile device and track your spending. I think that's a great point. Track your spending. And we're not talking about hardcore budgeting. We're talking about tracking your spending, and it's going to help you, and you're going to have financial peace of mind and be so much more successful. I think that's great advice. Now, let's look at another remarkable rookie performance. After a very successful run in Japan, playing baseball there in the Japanese league, Ichiro Suzuki took Major League Baseball by storm in his rookie year here in 2001. He had a stunning .350 batting average with 242 hits and 56 stolen bases. That's crazy. And if you Google Ichiro's career stats, your jaw is going to hit the table at the records he broke. And just if you're into baseball stats, just Google Ichiro and baseball stats. It's unbelievable. I don't know that I've ever seen a better hitter. I'm not even a huge baseball fan, and I know about this guy because just amazing. So that's a great rookie season.
Tony, and one of the things that just hit me as we're going through these baseball stats, is we have a very diverse group of people that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing.
So your success in life, and it doesn't have to be limited by any boxes that you put yourself in. Yep. And so this is why the show is really exciting, talking to those people that are at the beginnings of their careers, because the world's your oyster, and it's kind of, you can make a lot of different things happen. And it's
no matter where you come from, you can make it work.
And of course, I mean, that's one of the things I love about being American and living in America is, of all the countries, there's a lot of things we're not getting right, but there's a lot of things we do really well.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It really is the land of opportunity.
It is.
There are ways to make your life better, and so it's all about, but it starts with that knowledge, right? Because I think the biggest limiting factor I see with a lot of people, Tony, is you just don't know what you don't know. And if you didn't grow up in a family that talked about money at the dinner table, there's just things you don't know. And, some people understand, like, mom and dad work and then they have 401ks. For me, I grew up in a family where it was stressful because there were 6 kids and you never get ahead with 6 kids. And so you always knew when it was time to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And, and there was a little bit of that juggling. So that really imprinted on me that I wanted to have a life that wasn't kind of going paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's what this show is all about is you don't know what you don't know, but guess what? You can learn.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
The sooner that you learn, there's a lot of things out there that are really cool once you start to understand how they work. And so this next one that we're going to talk about it's paying down debt, which, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? Pay down your debt. But here's the thing that I really want you to think about is it kind of goes with looking as you're tracking your spending is what debt are you building? Because we're all different. And I can tell you, like in my family, I've got a couple people in my family that are not responsible with money, Tony. They will shop online, Amazon one click. That's hard for some people.
Yeah, it is.
And they struggle buying things because they get that emotional satisfaction from it. And Tony, you're not a bad person if that's what you do, because there's a lot of us out there.
Yeah,
but you want to start figuring these things out early and go, oh, let me track that spending because Amazon came to my house quite a few times this month. and to look and go, okay, do I need all that stuff? Or am I I had a bad day, so I bought something for myself. Are you spending as a way to make it emotionally good? So when I'm talking with you young folks out there, tracking your spending and paying off the debt, look at the kind of debt you're spending, because, buying a house, that's good debt. I don't think that's bad because you're building an asset and you're going to need some transportation. So those are things that you're going to need, but just kind of get that sense of where you are with your financial baggage, because we all have it. And then that's what that's really about, is paying off your debt at this point to see what's the kind of debt that you're going to be building, because we all do it a little differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that first year in your career is so important. And I tell my son is graduating from college this year. He just turned 22. And so he's going to go to work full time for the first time ever, as far as working full time this summer. And I think it's the perfect time to build a relationship with somebody like yourself, a financial services professional, because when it comes to things like keeping that debt down or paying off debt, you'll have a lot of insight for someone like him. And I think that's really important for young people who are just starting out in their careers to build that relationship and build their team, as you like to talk about. You're writing a book about it. It's about team building and having a team that you can be a part of, a financial team, to keep you on track. And if you start that from the beginning, imagine all the people you meet with who are in their 50s or 60s or even 40s who say, oh, I wish I would have done this when I was in my 20s. I say that to myself, wow, why didn't I do this in my 20s? I'd be so much better off today. I mean, we say that about everything, from eating habits to spending habits to money. And of course, money's the big one, because as you get older, you realize, okay, I need a lot of money now to live and to help my children and to save for retirement. So this is huge. And Tara, I think it's so great what you do. And it really does tie into the book you're writing, doesn't it?
It does, Tony. And then I'd love it. You just reminded me. So what I was going to talk about next was thinking about how you manage your pots of money. And so I did an interview yesterday with Susan Mariga, and she has written a fabulous book called Profit First for Minority Business Owners. And here's the thing, Tony, right? It's for all business owners, right? Sure. But it's this profit first. I love the idea because it goes back to that old adage of, were you taught as a kid that you should pay yourself first? Right. That you should ideally, every paycheck, any money that comes into your world, take 10% aside and pay yourself first. Yeah. Because, once you have to, think about it, if you have a $20 bill, that $20 bill can stay in your pocket or your wallet for a long time. But once you've broken that $20 bill, doesn't it just evaporate?
Yeah, that's true. It does.
It just disappears.
Once you break that 20.
I can have that $20 bill for a long time, but as soon as it's broken, it's just gone. And and this concept, and I love it in this Profit First book, she talked about, we've done a little bit of it, like we talked about with your 401k. You want to make sure you get that going out of your paycheck right away. But you kind of want to do that for yourself in different areas of your life, that you take when you get your paycheck, a certain amount of money you'll put in to your savings account to make sure you have your emergency fund. But Tony, you can even take it a step further and have a separate account that's growing to be your down payment if you want to buy a house. And you can have another account that's growing to be the money that you're going to use to buy your car. So you can actually get really smart about how you think about your money. And when the money comes into you, I like to talk about it that your money has a job.
Segment it and assign each bit of it a job.
Because if it's just all in there in one big fund, in one big account, it's hard to. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll double count. You can only spend $1 one time.
Well, sure. And that reminds me of what our government does, or like especially locally, but even I think on a national level, with spending problems that our government has. It's a great analogy because they have the general fund, like the state has a general fund. And if they pass a bill, if you vote for this referendum or for more money to go in, they'll raise property taxes to raise money for something. But I always like to look, is it going to be earmarked specifically for this, or does it go into the general fund? Because stuff that goes into the general fund, Tara, like you just said, that disappears quickly and no one knows where. It's like, well, our state is in debt. Well, it had this much that went into the general fund. Where'd that go? Where did it go? It just poof, it's gone. So unless you earmark your money, and I like to use that word, earmark it or segment it, give it a purpose. Don't put it into a general fund or like that $20 bill. Once you break it, it's gone. Just poof.
Exactly, Tony. And you're spot on, because I know with a lot of bills in the legislative process here locally for our local government, there's a lot of people that say, I might agree with that tax raise if it's going for a specific thing, but I'm not just going to agree to a tax raise that goes into the general pot.
Right.
Because of that. And it's the same thing with our money. And now here's the thing, I would take it a step further, Tony, is when you're segmenting, you should have an account where a segment where you put money for fun. You have to plan for fun, because if you don't plan for fun, then that's when you go to forget about it, and everything gets wiped out. So you need. Well,
you have your paycheck, but you also need a play check. I had a friend once that called that the play check. He goes, I have my paychecks, which go to cover my bills, but my play checks, those are the fun ones. So you want to have a play check.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
I love that one.
We've been talking about that. It's probably time for another baseball stat.
Yeah. Okay. So there's another all-time great rookie season. His first season in the major leagues, Mike Trout, who may be one of the best players in baseball right now, roared into 2012. So this is a more recent player. He was only 20 years old. He hit .326, had 30 home runs and 49 stolen bases. Not a bad way to start a career. And for a rookie season, that is fantastic. So how about another financial tip for our young workers out there, Tara?
Well, but first, Tony, I love it. This is how I know that you and I are getting old, because you referred to 2012 as fairly recent.
Oh, that's true. That's true. For me, it's like, man, the 2012, that wasn't that long ago.
I was nodding my head with you, and I realized for our young people.
Wait, this is a show for young people. To my son, 2012 was like, Dad, I was like 10. It's like, oh, okay. In fact, he would have been 10 in 2012, and now he's 22. So I guess, it's all perspective, Tara. Really Time flies when you're having fun, and as you get older, it really flies, doesn't it?
Well, so for our younger folks who might be listening today, I really encourage you to try to listen to our wisdom if you can. I know it can be unbearable. But,
sorry.
But we're only sharing with you things that we wish we would have known. So this next piece of advice, Tony, this is like the basics that everybody just needs to have, is you just got to start that emergency fund. And I think I read the last stat that like the average American right now has less than $400 saved for emergency.
Oh, terrible.
And, Tony, that's not even enough to replace your refrigerator if it goes out.
No, it's not.
And it's hard, right, to just have that emergency fund money there, especially when you have a lot of competing resources. But baby steps, even if it's small, but you just want to get in that habit pattern, because there's just going to be those last minute things that happen. Like, you're going to get the new set of tires that you need, or you've got to take that last minute flight, and we are going to start flying again. And there's just those things that pop up, and they always seem to come together in threes, of course.
Yeah,
And
they do.
because otherwise what happens is then you start putting things on a credit card.
Ugh.
And so the emergency fund is so nice to have, but it helps you be proactive so that it's a way to put yourself in the driver's seat with your money so that you're not in that reactive mode. Because if your backup plan is, well, I'll just throw it on a credit card, that will work maybe for a while, but this credit card things just they build up while you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And you know how we talk about compounding is a great thing?
Yeah.
Compounding interest is great when it's working for you. But on a credit card, there's also compounding interest on your debt.
Yeah, that's
So
not good.
you don't want that because that will sneak up on you. And it's really irritating to pay extra money that's just compounding interest. It's not because you got extra value. So I don't know. I just want to really foot stomp this emergency fund. And Tony, here's a little quick anecdote that worked great for one of my clients because she was horrible. She just would never save money. And what finally worked for her is she just took $3,000 and cash money and she put it, maybe her sock drawer, I don't know where, but she had it at home in her house. And she said, I don't know what's happened, but psychologically, I have that money. And she said, I'm just not throwing things on a credit card like I used to. So when situations happen, I think about it a little bit. And then if I need to, I'll go get into my emergency fund. But she said, it's at home. I don't have to go to a bank. It's money I have, and it makes me feel really good. So that's an example of figuring out what works for you. But that emergency fund, it's taking control of your finances.
Yeah, that's huge. And, you've mentioned it before, but emergency funds, again, put your money to work for you, have money that you set aside that you can't touch, that's for later, like a 401k, but also have money that's liquid so you don't have to put those costs on a credit card. That's why you have the emergency fund. Or let's say, a global pandemic hits and you can't work because your company is closed, and that's when you need that emergency fund to cover the cost. So it's so important if your car breaks down or an appliance goes out, and once you get a full-time job and move somewhere on your own, you're going to need things like appliances. You're going to have bills, and you're going to maybe need that emergency fund more and more. And I think that's just huge. Start young, and you'll have the 6 months of emergency fund built up like they say you need. And I mean, for most people, they're like 6 months of pay worth of pay saved up in an emergency fund. That's a lot. It is, but it is doable. People can achieve it, especially, Tara, if they start early, like you're suggesting here. I mean, that's amazing. Now, we're almost out of time. I'll finish with a little bit of great baseball. Great. We can all take inspiration from Dwight Gooden. He was a phenomenon. In 1984, the year I graduated high school, I'm aging myself again. He was 19 years old and a rookie. He went 17-9 and had a 2.60 ERA. And he struck out 276 hitters in his first year. So I guess remember, the first inning of your career is the best time to develop good financial habits, like a pitcher would his first year of baseball. So that makes the 8 innings to come a little bit easier if you set things up your first inning as paralleled to your first year in a full-time job.
Tony, and then the last thing I just really want to squeeze in here for our young folks is this topic of insurance. There is a lot of insurance out there. It's something you can design. It's something that's guaranteed. And what's really frustrating about insurance is if you buy insurance that you don't need. So for the young folks listening out there, insurance is a tool to solve a problem. And once you know what problem you're trying to solve, insurance is a wonderful thing. And I would just encourage you to definitely give Chris and I a call if you have questions, because you don't want to get something you don't need, but it sure is nice to make sure that your family is taken care of. You have disability insurance. There's a lot of things you want to make sure you're getting right. So, but I would just foot stomp. The people get frustrated with insurance when they buy insurance that they don't need.
Yeah.
Everything, it's a tool to solve a problem that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. Well, you know what? We're out of time, Tara. Give that phone number one more time so our listeners can give you a call and set up that complimentary consultation.
Sure, Tony. The number is 719-210-4242. Definitely give Chris and I a call if you want to talk some of these things out, because we love helping you get set up for financial success.
Awesome. And that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio with our host, Tara Nolan.
Join us for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio. Take care, and we'll talk with you next time.